Hello, everyone. Andrew here for a Life Burst, a Wixoss podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Toko, Center Toko for the Sanbaka deck. We're going to be doing a quick little deck tech on this deck. Before we get started in it, let's talk a little bit about what the deck is, what it does, how it feels, blah, blah, blah. It is a white-black mid-range recursion deck. I say recursion because it really does focus mostly on basically doing some removal stuff, good stuff like that, but also bringing stuff back from the graveyard to basically reuse your key removal spells over and over and over again. So without any further ado, we'll start talking a little bit about what this deck kind of wants to do. And the game plan of the deck is pretty simple. Toko is a pretty powerful center, and the fact that it is, you can sacrifice some virtual signy in order to basically do removal over and over again. But the real power in the deck lies with one of its key cards. In this case, that key card is here. Let me pull it up in just a second. Reina Yorumi. Now, Reina Yorumi has the benefit of basically being able to constantly redo and rebuy just removal over and over and over again. So it is the key card of this type of deck. That's really what gives this deck the tiniest niche in the meta, and that is that it has access to not just removal, black's normal removal of giving something negative power, but it also has access to basically free removal. So it doesn't need a ton of enter in order to do a lot of removal. And that specifically is a niche not really done by any other team in the meta. Now, is this deck any good? That's stretching it a bit. It's definitely tier 2. But if you do like just being nothing but a pile of removal, then this might be a deck that you want to consider. Let's go ahead and start talking about some of the Lrig deck here and what your choices are, what maybe some replacements could be, etc., etc. Your center is going to be Toko. Level 3, grow cost is 2, Sanbaka team. Your team action is that once a turn, you'll be able to take a virtual signy on your field and put it into the trash. When you do that, signy your opponent control gets negative 3,000 power till end of turn. You're basically always having a full hand with this deck, so you should feel pretty free to trash your signies and feel pretty fine about it. Its enter abilities, you can add up to 2 target virtual signies from your trash to your hand, and again, there's key virtual signy that you're trying to use in this deck, so being able to select stuff from your trash is a pretty good thing to do. Talking about the assists, I personally run the Ange level 1 assist, specifically the free grow that has a enter, put target signy on your opponent's field with power 1,000 or less into its owner's trash. It does some resource denial, and I think that's pretty good. And then the Ange level 2, specifically the one has the attack phase timing, grow cost of 2, and you can return target signy to the opponent's field to their owner's hand, and you can pay a black and add a black signy from your trash to your hand. Again, I think it's really important to get that one specific signy over and over again. On the assist level, I want Liz level 1, looks at the top 7 cards of your library, and you can add up to 2 black virtual signy in there. I want Melissa, and I also want the Reina, so that's going to be the choice that I'm going to go for. And then Liz level 2 will have the attack phase timing, return target signy on your opponent's field to the owner's hand, and then also have white colorless, add a target signy with guard from your trash to your hand. You're probably going to have a guard in the trash, so you'll be able to grab it. You'll notice that the level 1s are basically balanced, so there's a removal and there's a draw spell, and then the level 2s are both removals, and that's because this deck, again, just ham fists trying to get some lane openers and put things through with what it can. The 2 pieces that I chose are Samba's Carnival and Super Celestia Saber. I think you could probably replace Super Celestia Saber with something else if you wanted to, maybe Chime of the Blessed Key or any of these other sort of like pretty good passable. I think Xenocluster is coming out in set 2 that you probably could replace it with as well. And you'd feel fine with trying to replace the Super Celestia Saber. So I like that Super Celestia Saber gets back, aka my key cards that I'm trying to win the game with, but also a guard for 2, and I don't mind waiting a little bit since my Ange Liz should fix my opening hand, so I don't mind waiting and paying 2 enter for that. And also then Samba Carnival is the team piece for Sanbaka, and basically just lane opens with 2 lanes, getting another virtual card back to your hand, hopefully again Reyna, so that you can just keep doing like huge lane openers. And that wraps up the Lrig deck. All right, so when we go moving on over here to the main deck, what you're going to see here is on level 1, and I think this is probably one of the most important early game cards that you have, it's Melissa. Melissa gives you the ability to put the top 3 cards of your deck into your graveyard, your trash. Then if you've got 5 virtual in that trash, it turns into a 7,000, aka huge, and it's got a pretty relevant life burst that you pay to enter, and you can basically use a removal on something. So it's probably one of the best level 1s that you can go for. If you're not going to go for that level 1, getting your Rat Petite and a Sister Claire is a fine level 1 place to be at. Sister Claire has a combo with Rat Petite to basically cause something to get negative 4,000 or something to get negative 2,000, and you can still attack. It's not great. Both of them together are pretty passable. And you probably don't want them late game, so feel free to enter them as soon as you get them later down the line. Your other level 1s are, of course, you've got Servant Sharp, you should be running 4 of, and there's a cool virtual version art that you could be running, as well as, I think its name is Fuyuki. Let me just pull this out of my hand here just to double check. Yeah, Fuyuki. Which gives something negative 1,000, which is not important. It's never going to kill anything, really. It might kill a guard, I guess, occasionally. But realistically, it has a combo with Reyna later down the line, so you need to be running at least 3 so that you can trigger that Reyna ability. Moving on into our level 2s, we have Miri, who's going to be able to find some stuff from the graveyard and just do some lane filling for you. Again, the name of the game is recursion, and you're probably just using that Signy immediately to just go ahead and cash in on Toco and do a negative 3,000. But hey, it's something that you can do. The other thing that you can do is a Miji, which also lets you look at your deck, grab a virtual card from among them, put it into your hand. So it realistically is just more of the same, finding some extra virtual that you can then sacrifice to Toco and get some lane clearing in. Then you've got a colored, dual colored white and black level 2. In order to just sort of facilitate the fact that this deck is a little greedy in terms of its colors, but not terribly greedy. It's leaned a little bit more black, but it's probably 60-40. At the top end, what we have here is a Himawari. Now, Himawari is pretty good. It's just a generically good card. Again, it's a better Arc Gwain in this deck than Arc Gwain is, and Arc Gwain's a good card. And then you have Lulu, and Lulu is got the ability to basically save you from, making sure I'm doing this right here. Yeah, it's your team Signy. It allows you to not have to move cards from your life cloth to your trash due to refreshing, which this deck will be refreshing. I've had it refresh even twice on me before. Plus, it's got good removal spell. You can go ahead and use to enter to take target opponent's Signy, give it negative 10,000 power, and then put the top 10 of your cards into your trash. But the star of the show really is Reyna. Reyna is all you want in this deck if you can help it. It's got the Fuyuki combo where when it enters, if there's a Fuyuki on your field, you can give something negative 4,000 power till end of turn, which is not amazing on its own, but it's pretty good and free for what it's worth. And then the auto ability, when the Signy attacks till end of turn, all Signy on your opponent's field get negative 1,000 power for each virtual, so up to negative 3,000 power. You can do some pretty good board wipes with Reyna. If you put 2 Reyna out there, and there's enough recursion and tutoring with the recursion that you are very likely to pull that off. Negative 6,000 to the entire board and plus 2 4,000s will probably open up the entirety of the lanes. You got to watch out a little bit on setting it up so that way you can chain react things, and then the opponent just removes one of your arena in response before attacks. So, keep that in mind, that is a thing that could happen. But that is the deck in a nutshell. There's 2 spells here. There's basically flex spots that I have under attractive. Theoretically, in the future, you could take out more Reina Petites if you wanted to, and probably add 2 more spells in here. I think under attractive, this is the only deck that under attractive can actually perform in. But it's not something that I wouldn't necessarily look at and see a black spell or a white spell in the future that I'm like, no, actually I would rather have that here and then put it into the deck. Let's talk a little bit about the deck's future and how the deck operates, like where it stands on the current meta, where it stands on the future meta, and the Japan meta. The answer is, where does it stand right now? It's not very good right now. I'd probably put it tier 2, maybe even borderline unlisted. I think Ange is also another deck that you could run as the center for this deck, and I think Ange is just slightly less powerful, therefore I'd untier it. Toko seems like tier 2. I wouldn't necessarily team break, less because it doesn't give you Toko's powerful center ability, but more because you really are grasping on all straws that you possibly can. This deck does not get any real support from set 1 onwards because they just haven't brought back Virtual. If they bring back Virtual, I would immediately think of as this could be dangerous in the meta. But as it stands right now, not. However, I would be remiss to not note that there is a blip in the radar here on the Japanese meta from set 4, 5, 6. It occasionally shows up and wins. And that is due to the fact that it has free removal and a constant stream of removal. So it kind of can mess up DMX a little bit in terms of the fact that their whole strategy is putting out these enchant signies, to use a magic term, otherwise known as souls, later down the line. And you can kind of catch them unawares with this. Is this a powerful enough niche to say that this deck suddenly becomes tier 1 or something because it beats the best deck, the Boogeyman, in the format? And the answer is no. I think the Boogeyman still beats this deck pretty hard. If this deck skips a beat at all, it will take advantage of it. And it loses to pretty much everything else. So right now, I wouldn't be ashamed playing it. I think it can put up some kind of results in our current meta. It probably puts up results all the way up to set 3, but I wouldn't ever be excited about playing this deck. And as far as shelf life goes, it doesn't really have much of a shelf life. But look, I gotta admit though, if you like your cat maid as your center, you have every right to enjoy it, and you can catch some people unawares, especially as the format goes on, because they're just not used to this kind of constant stream of removal, and you might be able to take advantage of it and just wreck some people with it. So it's a cool deck to have on the side and occasionally pull out for the memes or whatever. I think that's about all you need to know for this deck. If you guys want to learn any more about deck techs, different types of how this deck works in the future. Oh, I should actually talk about some replacement cards that you can put in it. There's not very much. Again, it's got such a limited pool to pull from. I don't want to put you guys down a wrong path and say, hey, these cards are good. But there is one that I think is pretty okay, and that's Mitoko Rendu. It's the vanilla level 3 that has a life burst ability of being able to vanish something on the opponent's field. I think that card is perfectly fine, and I also think that Sarah, if you wanted to be a little bit more greedy with your enter, Sarah is the multicolored level 1 that has white and black. I think both of those are fine cards to plop in if you ever want to, and you can change the numbers on these a little bit at all. I also think Tokyo Fuma is a pretty okay. It's Tamaki Fumio. There we go. That's the cat that's scratching. It's a level 2 with vanilla level 2 with the life burst that gives target Signy on your opponent's field -8,000 till end of turn. Those would be my suggestions. If you wanted to add or subtract anything, you can play around the numbers as you see fit with this deck. But I think this is pretty close to probably what you want to be playing. It's tough to improve on it since it's got such a limited card pool to pull from. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoy it. Remember to subscribe if you want any more future deck techs or if you want to hear the podcast with me and Tiffany. And may you always flip a life burst. Life burst. Life burst.